Framing Eye Care Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Maria Sampoulos. I have Dr. Rich Driscoll with us today. We are going to talk about commercial real estate and why it's important for you to invest and grow your portfolio as an optometrist. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. For those of you that do not know Rich, he is an optometrist, an author, an avid commercial real estate investor, graduated from Illinois College of Optometry, and specializes in contact lenses, 2 locations in Dallas, Texas. And, he's always been interested in real estate as a long-term investment and strategy and a way to stabilize his portfolio and long-term passive income and, tax advantages. I think a lot of us as optometrists need tax advantages. And he brings 2 decades of experience to the table today with a portfolio of 500 apartment units, in addition to owning buildings where he practices, which I think is very important for optometrists. And he's very passionate about empowering, physicians and, helping them diversify their income and investments as well. So welcome to the podcast, and thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge.
Thank you very much for having me. This is great. Love to talk about this stuff.
So tell us why, we should invest in other things than just the stock market.
The stock market has been our traditional way of investing our money and trying to prepare for retirement and things after practice. But it goes up and down. It has a lot of volatility to it. So we need to smooth that out with other income streams. And commercial real estate's a good one to do stuff like that. There's tax advantages and lots of things that help smooth out the flow and improve your income and just for better wealth creation. Yeah. So it helps smooth out your portfolio.
What are some different types of commercial real estate that someone might want to consider investing in?
There's quite a few. For us as optometrists, the first thing we would probably start would be our own practice. Having a single freestanding building. We might have a little extra leasing space for a tenant or 2 with us. That's how most of us would probably start. And but then up from there might be like a strip center, where there might be a hair salon, nail salon, dry cleaners, and an optometry office in it. I might have 3, 4, 5 businesses all on the line. So that would be another common thing. Multifamily, or known as apartment, would be another option where it's a good thing where you can do it more passively. So we're not actively involved with the tenants leasing and stuff ourselves. Those investments are to where it's a pool of a bunch of people pool their money together and they can get professional management that way. So it's more passive.
Yeah. But I had an optometrist on the podcast maybe about a year ago or a year and a half ago. And what she would do is she'd buy small, houses and single family houses. And she was in the Midwest. So the prices are a lot different than the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And she's done very well with doing that. Mm-hmm. And, she had her goal of 10 properties, but she didn't need a lot of money to do so. Does it take millions of dollars to invest in like commercial real estate?
Yeah, it depends. If you're doing your own building, a building might be, 800,000, 1.5 million, kind of depends on what part of the country you're in. So it can there if it's your own building, but a lot of times they'll pool money together. And so it might be, from other people. So the minimum investment might be 50,000 or 100,000. So no, not necessarily.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. So that's something for, optometrists that are looking to, help with that. But, there's tax advantages in this. So what can we expect and when, we invest in commercial real estate for tax advantages?
Well, I'm not an accountant, but doing this and you talk to accountants and lawyers and stuff, you kind of learn some things. And that's a big part of the attractive part of real estate investing. It's actually how the top 1%, kind of don't pay much in taxes because they get tax benefits from real estate and things like that. So what often happens is you can get depreciation from your from the investment. Say the roof or the carpet, things like that depreciate at different rates, and so you can take that depreciation and apply it towards passive income gains that you might have. And so, you might get 40 or 50% of what you paid back in tax benefits.
What if like I invested and then I need money at the end of the year? How do I cash out? Like, how do I do that with real
Yeah,
estate, like stocks?
real estate's not very liquid, so it's more of a long-term investment. If you say you own your own, building, you're an optometrist, own your own building, you might be able to sell that, say, in 90 days, six like that, and get out. But if you're in a syndication, like with a bunch of other people, you might have less control over your exit plan. There's not really a easy way to go in and someone buy it from you right away. So those are less liquid. Those might be 3 to 6 year investment. So you have to keep that in mind and put money in there you might need for a while.
Yeah. So real estate's the long term, and I think real estate always
Yes.
usually goes up in
Yeah, I think
general.
people realize that, I think.
Yeah. And I think during COVID, like with the prices going up very high, a lot of them that bought them recent try to flip them quick.
Mhm.
I've heard of people doing that. What does that entail? And, what maybe a young optometrist that's handy might want to do with that?
That's kind of like you're talking about flipping houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, flipping houses is a good way to get started in it. It's a little more active in investment, because you're dealing with multiple tenants. You might have 4 or 5 houses, or some. I know some people have 20. But so it's more, it can be more of a full-time thing, and it takes more time to do. But it is a very good way of getting in there, and you have multiple income streams. One thing with flipping houses, you're using your own credit there to do it. Those are usually recourse loans, meaning you're on the hook for it. Whereas if it's the multiple or larger real estate investment, it stands on its own, and the bank looks at that as a business, and that business is used as the equity to secure the loan. So there's no recourse. So the investor's usually not on the hook for it. So multifamily would be something like that. Whereas where you'd be a non-recourse loan, because it's a big investment. But when you look at something like flipping houses, each of those houses, you're on the hook for each of those notes. So you might only be able to do maybe 5 or 10 houses, depending on how much credit you have.
Yeah. Commercial, when people think commercial is their practice and, renting out to businesses, but it's also apartment complexes, multi-family. If you're not living there, that's a business, right? That's a commercial What does that look like? And what does it look like to invest in these things and typical life cycle of these investments?
That's it's run as pretty much like a small business. So when you do something like that, the bank will require you to have professional management and things like that. So it's a little more hands off, where you would manage the managers, essentially. Someone on site that takes care of dealing with the attendants, things like that. And so typically what happened is you go find a deal. There's someone, that's like a general partner, someone that knows how to do these things. We go find the deal. They have to then, underwrite the deal, check it. Does this deal work? Do the numbers really work on this deal? Do we think we can execute our business plan and make some money here or not? If that works, they submit an offer. That takes a little bit of time. So out of maybe, if you underwrite maybe 100 deals, maybe only 2 or 3 are actually successful that submitted. You actually go and buy. Once the offer is accepted, they'll do some due diligence, make sure all the numbers that you were given are actually in fact true. And so they have to just verify the deal, basically, kind of like a bank would. If we did a loan with a bank, they'd underwrite it, make sure everything we showed them was true. Or if we were to sell our practice, something like that. Then they do closing, and then you start to execute on the business plan. So which basically would entail improve the operations, add value to the property. You might go and get new countertops in there, painting, make it better. You make it better for people. More people want to live there, so the rent goes up a little bit. And then when that happens, then you can typically go and refinance it. And a lot of times when you refinance it, they'll take cash out and distribute that to the partners, which the investor would be the partners. And then they can also do something. They go and assess the taxes on things, and that's where the tax part comes in. When you go in and put in the new carpets, all those things, those are appreciated at different rates, and you can use that against your taxes. for passive losses. And then once it's time to refinance, if as a practice is worth more, or the commercial building is worth more, you can refinance it, or they might just exit right then, and that might take like 3 years to get to that point. And if they refinance it, you keep it for a little longer, and then say at 5 or 6 years, they probably look to sell. Or sometimes they might decide it's a good investment. They're getting monthly distributions and they decide to keep it and for longer. That's
So
kind of the rough life cycle.
yeah, of course, yeah. Investments. Some doctors might consider multifamily if they're employed. They want and then commercial real estate sometimes might be some other forte for other optometrists. But tell us how that's changed, you think, over the years now with COVID and people working from home, and why someone might pick a multifamily unit versus over commercial real estate, such as like a high rise or a strip center.
Yeah, that's a good question. And, the things have changed. A lot more people doing things from home these days. I mean, I don't know. You probably see it too. You just ask people where you work. I work from home. I mean, it's so common now. People working from home. So commercial buildings are sometimes a little bit less attractive. I think like the buildings we would be in, like stand-up buildings, freestanding, where there's a building like a dentist or an accountant or us in there. Those are probably a little safer investments these days with people working from home. I think the biggest threat would be like the high rises, where people are less likely to want to drive downtown to go to work, or they might just do it 2 or 3 days a week. So when those leases come up, a lot of those big businesses that are down there might want less space. And so I think, smaller buildings like we would be in are a better investment, or multifamily. I think people always need a place to live. And that's one of the things I like about apartment buildings as an investment is people need a place to live in good times and bad. So and there's different levels of apartments. You might have like a class A apartment, like those big, nice high rises. Those do great in good times. People might be spending as much money in one of those as they are in a house, but they like to, turnkey. They go in, don't have to worry about the lawn, anything like that. They just go in and leave. The class B apartments, where I find is better investments, they do well in both good and bad times. People that are in times are good, they're in class A. And the people that are in the lower, like the class C apartments, move up to the B, and then in a bad time, the people in the class A apartments decide, I don't want to spend, $4,000 a month. I want to, spend $2,000 a month. They go back to the class B apartment. So there's a level of apartments there I think are safer to be in, and it's more diversified. Might have 100 units, and so if you lose a tenant in an apartment, it's 1 out of 100 or 2 out of 100. Whereas if you have a strip center, or we have like our commercial building, where we might have 2 or 3 tenants, you lose a tenant, one of your 3 tenants, your income is down by 33%. So that's why multifamily I find is a safer investment in that way, in good times and bad. And you can also hire professional management. You have to. So it's not quite as actively managed as, say, if we had our commercial building that we have our practice in and have a few tenants. It takes a little more time to manage. It's not a lot, but it does take more time.
Yeah. So our doctor that wants to invest, how do they know what's worth investing, right? How do you know where it is? Every time in real estate, they say location, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also, how do you find good deals in this kind of economy and, people outbidding, not, paying cash and all this type of environment right now, high interest rates? How do we know what's a good deal?
That's a really, really good question. One thing, I do the newsletter and things like that, teaching my fellow optometrists and friends, how we do this, how you pick out a good deal and stuff. But you have to kind of underwrite the deal yourself too. You have to look at location and things like that. And if a deal comes up for an apartment in some place you've never heard of it, do a lot of people live there? Would you want to live there? Just like anything else, you got to look at it. Is there a lot of crime there? And sometimes there's places that might be close and might even be able to drive by yourself and check it out, So again, it's just location, what type of area is it? Where do the people work? Is there a military base there? that might be good. It might not. Is it a college town, or if it's a college town, it might be a lot more damage might happen, and it's a little, more upkeep, things like that. So you just have to look at like anything else. But also, when you, there might be a group that kind of does a pre-screening for you and kind of gives you an idea and kind of guides you through the process. And so that's helpful too. So it's
Has it been helpful to look at like Zillow when I've looked at real estate? It's also like school grade and then, how much other properties have been sold over the last, or how long they've been on the market for.
I think it is. You can actually use Zillow to look at apartments. Is also helpful. You can look on there and see how much people are paying for rent, and in some cases, like in my area in Dallas, Fort Worth, like a Class A apartment's going for $3,000-$4,000, whereas like a Class B might be $2,000, $2,500 for 2-3 bedrooms. So yeah, it does help. So you can compare that to houses and see if, are they similar? Can you get the rents that people are expecting? And you'll get a operating memorandum, that says, that we expect rents to be this, we can move them up to this, and go look on Zillow and see, you can actually look on Zillow or apartments.com and look on there and see what the apartment's rated at,
Well, you got to make sure they can pay for it too in this economy. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, you could say,
Yes.
right.
Yeah,
and I think also I've read somewhere it's like the 1% rule. If you buy something at 300,000, you should be able to get the rent at 3,000 a month. Is that correct?
You mean on like an apartment complex?
Well, real estate. Oh, I'm sure they're different apartment versus regular real estate.
Yeah. I think for commercial buildings and stuff, I think LoopNet is kind of better to look at for rents. And that goes in case, say we want to buy land or something like that. You can go on LoopNet and get an idea of what rents are. Say a doctor's rent, their lease is coming up. Then we'll see, what's the cost down the street if I were to move. They can go to LoopNet and search. And that's a really good place to find out for commercial real estate of all kinds, how much it costs, what's the going rate, things like that.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast and shedding some light on this. I think it'd be very helpful for, the listeners of this podcast and help diversify their portfolio, especially with the way things are changing in the economy and in our industry, and hope that, optometrists can retire successfully. And if someone wanted to contact you, do you have an email address that they can contact you at?
Yeah. Email is rich@providerscapital.com. So it's RICH@providerscapital.com. So
thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Right. Thank you very much. Bye.